Hello, listeners, and welcome to episode 162 of the Nigerian Football Weekly podcast. I'm your host, Uche. And yes, we are back feeling refreshed. We've taken our short break post the international break, so apologies for not getting an episode last week, but we just wanted to recharge our batteries, and we're back and better. So, of course, we know that club football's been back in full swing, so we're going to be touching on all things club football-wise, and a few key talking points regarding the Super Eagles, such as the FIFA World Rankings, the South Africa investigation, and the standout performers for the weekend that just passed, as well as the Nigeria Flying Eagles Under-20 squad that's been selected to prosecute the Under-20 World Cup taking place in Chile, starting in just under a week, literally this Saturday. And then also touching on a few things around the CAF Champions League qualification for Nigerian teams, because it's quite exciting that we may potentially get our first Nigerian team qualify for a CAF Champions League group stage for the first time since the 2019 season. So that's a big deal. And then, of course, doing our usual player reviews before finalizing with the Starboy of the week and the ones to watch. Now, because today is September 23rd, I just want to say a big congratulations to Ousmane Dembele of Paris Saint-Germain and France for winning the men's Ballon d'Or, and Aitana Bonmati for winning the women's Ballon d'Or. As an Arsenal fan on the women's side, I did think Maria Caldente was very, very unlucky not to win the prize. She came second, and this is after Arsenal won the Champions League and her Spain team lost in the final to England in the Euros, with Caldente actually scoring the goal in the final for Spain. And then Alicia Russo, who plays for Arsenal and England, who won the Champions League and the Euros, was even third. So I think there's something with the women's voting where, can we accuse them of not watching all the women's games fully? Maybe it's just, whatever name is in your brain. It's like when they kept giving Putellas the Ballon d'Or. Something needs to shake on the women's side of things to be more accurate. On the men's side of things, of course, Ousmane Dembele finished top, which was well deserved after the brilliant season he had. 37 goals, over 15 assists, won every trophy available for PSG that we would usually recognize as a trophy needed for the Ballon d'Or. Obviously, they lost the Club World Cup final, but that's Infantino's new magic project that has decided is now a trophy that should count. So anyway, congratulations to them. Lamine Yamal finished second, and let's just say it will not surprise me if in a few years' time or even next year, it's Lamine Yamal's award. I mean, to win second place at 18 years old just tells you the kind of talent he has. Although I did think Rafinha should have probably finished ahead of him when you really think about Rafinha's output last season. And it was interesting. Vitinha was third, Mohamed Salah was fourth, with Hakimi sixth. But in my mind, I would recommend Hakimi as giving African Footballer of the Year. But obviously, there's a world with the season Salah had in the Premier League last year that he could also get it. But it will be interesting to see what CAF do when the African Footballer of the Year award comes, because I think Hakimi deserves it after winning the treble. But of course, we know the kind of amazing individual season Mohamed Salah had for Liverpool. And of course, they romped to the Premier League title. So I thought that was some interesting things I saw. And obviously, they put Cole Palmer in the top 10 ahead of Harry Kane, which I found pretty interesting when you look at what Cole Palmer did this year. But you know what? At least they got Dembele right. Congratulations, Dembele. Even though we're Nigerian Football Weekly, we of course want to touch on, we know we're watching football. We're all watching ball. So we want to cover these things. So that's that. Now, Super Eagles World Ranking. I keep bringing this up, guys, because I tell people that your world ranking matters a lot more than a country realizes. When it comes to qualifiers, the pots they put you in, the seeding you do for like actual tournaments in Africa, all these things count. For the most part, Nigeria have been able to maintain a top 6 ranking in CAF so far, which is why whenever we go to AFCON, we're the top seed in our groups. Most of the qualification groups they give us, we're always the top seed in the group, which is what makes it even more alarming that we're about to miss out on the World Cup, because CAF did their best for us already. When you play friendlies, even friendly games, it counts towards your world ranking. If your country is not in the top 50 world rankings, it is much more difficult for your players to secure work permits to play in the UK, for example. A lot of these things matter. The more players you have in the top 50. If your country is in the top 50, you usually reap the benefits. And I have to say that Nigeria, after the latest world rankings, were sailing very, very close, too close to 50 for my liking. Let's just put it that way. So we know that this year has been a shit show for the Super Eagles anyway in general. And basically, they haven't really made any progress since winning AFCON last year. You know, when you look at Morocco, since the World Cup in 2022, they've been on a steady upward trajectory, even despite struggling at AFCON last year. They're now ranked the 11th best country in the world, Morocco. And this is something, you can argue that Nigeria will have a better squad, but it's based on your performances. Morocco now, when it comes to seeding of any kind in Africa or even globally, they're a force. Because of their actions in the World Cup, they're respected. No team is ever going to play Morocco and think, it's a walkover. There's no dual national for any country that the other country would just accept that they're going to play for us over Morocco. Those days are gone. Even Lamine Yamal being fast-tracked to play for Spain when he was, I think, he had just turned 17 or still not even 17, was because of the threat from the Moroccan Federation. Yes, Spain got lucky with that one, of course, because Yamal is that guy. But there's even videos you can find online of him laughing at his Spanish under 20 colleagues when Morocco knocked out Spain in the last World Cup and holding his Morocco shirt. So a lot happens from world rankings. I don't want to go into a tangent, but it matters a lot. Senegal are also now in the top 20. I think they're now 18th in the world. So you can see the workings. You can see the progress over the last few years when it comes to qualifying, tournaments, even World Cups. Senegal show walking. You know, there's a reason Morocco and Senegal are two teams in Africa you never hear of any issues. Even the things I complain about, like names on the back of their jersey, watch every match Morocco and Senegal play is there. And these are teams that are showing walkings. They have the academies that are already pushing through talents. The Senegalese league is not necessarily the best, but they have very good partnerships because they understand their strengths when it comes to producing talent from young and sending them straight to Ligue 1. You have a lot of Senegalese players who play in France and in Europe in general, and their rep is excellent. And they now have the pool of dual nationals that are Senegalese that they can pick from as well, like Ilman Ndiaye. So these things all matter. Morocco too, go and check their workings. Mohamed IV Complex, these things is not rocket science. They have a good league as well. You know, infrastructure, investing, all the things that the players don't have to think about. Moroccan players are not bothered about that because everything they need is there for them. We cannot say the same thing for our dear Super Eagles. But anyway, the Super Eagles have now dropped from 44th in the world to 45th in the world. So as I said, we're sailing dangerously close to that 50th mark. And after 50th mark, all these players that want to play in Premier League, see how they easily got Uche work permits. Yes, it helps when you're already starting in like the top 5 leagues. But because Nigeria is in the top 50 ranking, it's easier to get work permits for these kind of players. Arokodare, just by being a Nigerian international and being in the top 50, it made it easier for him to secure a work permit to get to Wolves. So let's be watching, Sha. And in Africa, Nigeria has also dropped from 5th to 6th. So let's be careful, though, because I know the gap between 6th, 7th, and 8th is not too much. So maybe we need the humbling, I don't know, but we've been humbled enough. You know, February last year, when we were in the final of the AFCON, just so you know, we were ranked 28th in the world and 3rd best in Africa. And in the space of, 18 months, give or take, 19 months, maybe, we have now dropped from 28th to 45th and from 3rd in Africa to 6th. Also, I found out last week that between 2004 and 2017, shout out to the respected journalist Oluwashina, Nigeria did not lose a single World Cup qualifier at all. The loss in Angola, when we lost 1-0 to them, which cost us our ticket due to the head-to-head role, was the last time we lost in 2004. We did not lose any World Cup qualifier until 2017. And the irony of this is the 2017 qualifier we lost was even a technicality because we drew against Algeria after we had qualified for the World Cup. But because Shehu Abdullahi was played after getting 2 yellow cards, they ended up giving Algeria a 3-0 victory. But we did not actually lose the game. So there's a world where we would not have lost a World Cup qualifier until we lost to, was it Central African Republic or one of the group games that we're playing before we lost that head-to-head with Ghana, which would have even been 2021. So that's just to tell you that in reality, Nigeria did not lose a World Cup qualifier from 2004 up till 2021. Just to tell you how imperious we were with World Cup qualification, and just to let you know how dire the standards have dropped. You know, because that means 2005-2016 we did not lose a single qualifying game, and now we're bringing our calculator and pressing calculator and manifesting and looking at how we can go through the back door and the comma. It's extremely disappointing to see, is what I really have to say, and hopefully we can see better things going forward. We still have World Cup qualifiers prosecute in October, and also AFCON coming, where we have to put in a good performance. So looking forward to see what the boys can do going forward. So speaking of World Cup qualifiers taking place in October, it has finally been announced by South African outlet SABC Sports that FIFA have leveled charges against the South Africa Football Association and Teboho Mokoena. In a letter, SAFA dated September 15, 2025, which the public broadcaster has seen, FIFA confirmed that both the player and the association face charges of breaching several disciplinary regulations, including voting of an ineligible player. The case has been referred to FIFA Disciplinary Committee, and they've been given 6 days to submit their response. So the 6 days would have ended literally 2 days ago, which means South Africans have probably submitted their response. Some South Africans say we're being haters, that why are we not facing our fronts, but we knew this was going to happen anyway. As I just said, what happened to Shehu Abdullahi, it was always going to come down, which is why it's so disappointing that we did not really play as well attacking wise in Bloemfontein and try to beat South Africa, because if we did, and with what's about to come down South Africa, we probably would have been smiling now and thinking of how we could go to America for the World Cup. But what does this mean for the group anyway? If South Africa are found guilty, they lose 3 points. They won that game against Lesotho 2-0, so the game will be forfeited by South Africa, meaning the game will be recognized as a 3-0 loss for them and a 3-0 win for Lesotho. This takes their 2 goals scored in that game and a further 3 for losing 3-0. So their goal difference goes down from +8 to +3. I've noticed on social media that a lot of people have been struggling to do the maths on this one. If you win a match 2-0 and they change the result from 2-0 win from you to a 3-0 loss, is a 5-goal swing. 5-goal swing. Mathematics is not that hard. Yeah, so that is the situation here. So South Africa's goal difference will go down to +3. South Africa will then drop down to second, as they will have a lower goal difference than Benin, and Benin will now become top of the group. Lesotho will get 3 points, and their own goal difference will increase +5. And let's see if FIFA are going to implement these charges ahead of the October qualifiers, because boy oh boy, that would mean Group C of the CAF World Cup qualifiers is definitely the one with all the eyes on, based on the permutations. What does the upgraded group look like? That means Benin Republic and South Africa will now go level on points with 14 points each after 8 games. But Benin, by virtue of having a +4 goal difference, will stay ahead of South Africa, who have a +3 goal difference. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Nigeria and Rwanda will now remain on our 11 points each, which means that we're third with our +2 goal difference. But crucially, Nigeria and Rwanda are just 3 points behind Benin and South Africa. And then you have Lesotho 2 points behind with 9 points. But when you look at their final 2 games, even if they win those 2 games and get 15 points, it's unlikely that Benin or South Africa will not get 15 points. So, but what does this mean? It now means that all of a sudden, a country like South Africa, who have 2 final games where they're playing Zimbabwe away and playing Rwanda at home, Zimbabwe are initially going to play the game in South Africa, but they've moved it to Botswana now. So all of a sudden there's pressure on South Africans, because it's now a straight shootout between South Africa and Benin, or potentially Nigeria, to get points. So will South Africa dispatch Zimbabwe as they expect to? Nigeria were expected to beat Zimbabwe too, but they've drawn 4 games, and I think those 4 draws they had, 3 of them were quote-unquote home games. Of course, Nigeria, we gave them 2 very, very stupidly. But there's a world where Zimbabwe could maybe do it. They have Munetsi, they have Chirewa. It's not as if their squad is that bad. They have Jordan Zamora who plays in Serie. So let's watch this space and see what happens. Also, crucially, they then go and play Rwanda. So Rwanda, one team that have beaten South Africa on a pitch in this qualification round. And South Africans probably expect to roll over Rwanda, but that may not be the case, because the way Rwanda played against Nigeria, or injuring players, when it comes to pressure and these things, you don't know how it may be. So literally, if South Africa get 2 draws from their last 2 games, they could be in big trouble, is my point. Or if they lose 1 and win 1, because all of a sudden the odds may not necessarily be that great. Anyway, it's squeaky bum time for everybody. As for Benin Republic, they have 2 final games. I know for a fact that they have to still come to play Nigeria in their last game of the qualifiers, and I think that is going to be a very big differentiator. Actually, for Benin, unfortunately for them, their last 2 games are away games. They play Rwanda away, which is already going to be a very, very tough game because Rwanda are a decent side and Rwanda have 11 points, so they'll fancy their chances because if they can beat Benin by 2 goals, they may go ahead of Benin. So very, very interesting things in terms of what it's now done to our group. And then finally, Benin will come to Uyo for their final World Cup qualifier with our former boss, Genoro, who was also responsible for a huge chunk of us not losing World Cup qualifiers, especially in 2017 all the way to 2021, before he was unceremoniously sacked ahead of AFCON. So a lot to, very interesting. We'll face this bridge in 2 weeks' time. There's still Premier League football and European football going on for the next 2 weeks. But I think it's made the group a lot more interesting now. We'll see. I still think Nigeria's hopes are very slim because we have to win the group. But look, as far as there's hope, go and play your 2 games, win the 2 games, see where you can run it up, and then whatever you end up at, we'll leave it at. The good thing is we know that we can, as long as we beat Benin Republic by 2 or 3 goals, no matter what they do, we'll go above them, potentially based on goal difference. But that South Africa one, where I have to hope that they draw 2 games or they're able to lose 1 and win 1. So we shall see. The jury's out. But good to see FIFA finally taking a stand on what we would have expected. Now, very quickly, I just want to touch on the Flying Eagles list. So the Under-20 World Cup is slated to start on the 27th of September. I believe it's taking place in Chile from the 27th of September to the 9th of October. The last time Nigeria's Under-20 played in the Under-20 World Cup, we beat Argentina in the knockout rounds in their home. I think we ended up going out in the quarterfinals, if I'm not mistaken. But I do remember that because it was quite a surprise win for the Flying Eagles and beating Argentina. I remember that being such a good win for us, you know, because we finished third in a group where 3 teams won 2 games and lost 1. Yeah, but in our last outing, we ended up losing in the quarterfinals to South Korea after extra time. I think Bassey played in that tournament as well. So that's why I remember some of the names. But anyway, Nigeria's first game is against Norway on Monday, September 29th at 9 p.m. So put your alarms for that. And of course, I'll try and watch that and cover that while I'm doing the podcast next week. Our other games will then be against Saudi Arabia next week, Friday at 12 midnight, and then Colombia on Monday at 12 a.m. So look out for that. The list includes Ebenezer Harcourt, who made his debut in the Chan AFCON for the home-based players, and he's just 15 years old, so he would definitely start. Clinton Ezekiel, Rufai Abubakar. Defenders, I can see Daniel Bamei here, so I know his name. Odinaka Okoro also played in the Under-20 AFCON as well, so I recognize his name. In midfield, Daniel Daga of Molde is here, so he's one of our talisman, so to speak. So good to see him in the squad as well. And then in the forward line, we've got Parubo Arieri, who did really well in the CAF Under-20 Championship and is slated for big things. At the moment, he's on loan somewhere in Norway, I think at Lillestrøm. So let's see how he plays. There's no Hafiz Ibrahim, though. He's not been released by his club, Rim, who are playing in League 2 for the tournament. But we wish the Flying Eagles all the best, and we'll, of course, be tracking their performance on the channel. Also, in the CAF Champions League, there will still be another round of qualifiers before the group stage, but it's been positive starts for Remo Stars. They beat Zilimaju 4-0 at home in the first leg of the preliminary round, and the second leg will be away in Comoros this Friday coming. So good to see Remo Stars, the good chance of progressing on that one. Also, Rivers United drew 0-0 away to JS Kinshasa in Congo. The second leg is going to be at home in Rivers on Sunday. So there's still every opportunity for both teams to progress onto the final qualification round that will then allow us to see who's going to end up in the CAF Champions League group stages. So watch this space. And then back to the regular schmegular program in terms of stand-up performance for the week. I have to start with the wonderful Alex Iwobi. If you did not watch the game on Saturday, Fulham and Brentford played the local West London derby, and it was a fantastic performance by Iwobi. Brentford took the lead after a mistake by Joshua King, and you saw Iwobi go and put his hand around the young 18-year-old, just telling him that it's going to be okay. And literally, like a few minutes after, even though he was nursing an injury before the game, He then scored the equalizer with the lovely finish with his right foot, almost like a snapshot past Kelleher in the goal for Brentford. And then literally like 2-3 minutes after, he played this delightful assist for Harry Wilson, like literally cut the ball across like 4 Brentford players for Harry Wilson to take a first-time finish with his left foot into the bottom corner. It was basically like a FIFA goal. And honestly, so good to see for Alex Iwobi, man. This guy is a supreme jogador, I keep telling you. Stop judging him on the nonsense they're trying to put him in Nigeria. This guy is a supreme baller. He can play anywhere. And he's showing his best football right now over the last 18 months of his career. So really pleased to see that for Alex Iwobi. And that's now 2 assists and 1 goal in 5 games so far this season. As for Gift Orban, it looks like there may be hope for the Nigerian striker. His loan for Verona really took off this weekend as he scored his first goal for the new club that he's on loan at home against Juventus in a 1-1 draw. It was a penalty, but it was a well-taken penalty to give them the lead initially, but they drew the game 1-1. He played so well in this game, and he was actually awarded the Serie Man of the Match award, which is why I wanted to call this out, because for you to do that against Juventus is always a big achievement. And it looks like he's really settled in, and he's found a place where he can really just let his football do the talking. We also know that he's likely going to play a lot of minutes, and we've seen over the course of the last 3-4 years, the Nigerian players tend to thrive in Serie. So let's see how Gift Orban continues, and hopefully he can pick up the good form that he's shown so far. Also, Raphael Onyedika, I have to call out my star midfielder, as I like to say. Raphael Onyedika scored his first Champions League goal for Club Brugge last week Thursday, as they beat Monaco 4-1. You know, pretty impressive goal as well. Remember, I scored against Man City last season, but that was in a loss. So this one matters more. But it's so amazing to see that he continues to impress and continues to show his workings as a star player for a Champions League side that are also going for the Belgian title alongside Union Saint-Gilloise. So it just baffles my mind that this one that Eric Schell decided was not good enough to get 0 minutes in World Cup qualifiers. So he must explain that one, you know. But shout out to Raphael Onyedika, and long may the good performances continue. Also, Ilenikhena has scored 2 goals in his last 3 games for Monaco. He's not starting games anymore, but it's good to see him scoring goals regardless. Last week, he scored a late winner for Monaco in their game against Auxerre, and then over the weekend, he scored in stoppage time in their 5-2 win on Sunday against Metz. Really good finish with his left foot as well, you know, just into the bottom corner. So let's see how things play out for him in this season. But I still don't get what's happening with Ilenikhena. He's Nigerian by nationality. Monaco even posts that he's Nigerian. He plays in the Champions League. He plays for Monaco. He's clearly a talent. But I don't hear anything about the NFF looking at him or trying to get him on his radar. Maybe he's trying to stick out for France. I don't know, because there's clearly some passport issues somewhere there, because he's not a French national yet, even though he's lived in France for the majority of his life. But if the NFF are watching, why not go and talk to this boy? Fast track him now while trying to build a new squad towards the next 2030 World Cup or the next 5-6 years. The boy's 19. Like, please, go and fix up. Go and talk to him. Figure it out, please, NFF. And Ilenikhena continue the good performances. Also, good to see Terem Moffi back on the score sheet yet again. Unfortunately, they lost 4-1 to Brest, which was an absolute humiliation. But scoring is a striker's job, and he did his job in the game. Hopefully, he can keep on scoring more goals. I think that's his 2nd goal of the season now. And this is a player that I'm really, really rooting for, because I think on his day, when Terem Moffi is fit, I find it hard to believe he's not one of the 3 best strikers that Nigeria have. Terem Moffi's career workings are more than any Arokodare, even a Boniface, even a Dessers. Go and look at what Terem Moffi has done in his career in League One. Even for the national team, some of the goals he scored. Remember, even in the AFCON semi-final, it's not Moffi that won us that. Was it Moffi that won us the penalty? I think so. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember him making a big impact in the AFCON semi-final is the whole point. So continue to do well, Terem Moffi, and good to see him slowly getting back to his best after his ACL injury. Onuachu is also doing what he does best in lower leagues outside the top 5 leagues. This guy is a bully. As far as not top 5 leagues, it's Belgium, Portugal, Turkey. Onuachu is going to dominate their defenders. Boy, is he doing that. He has now scored his 3rd league goal of the season since making his return back to Turkey. The goal was actually assisted by Onana. So my United fans, that your cursing, that your Old Trafford is so funny. Which is just interesting to see. Onuachu seems to be very comfortable in Turkey and is where he's getting playing time, so we continue to wish him all the best. Obviously, because of his age, I don't think he should be brought back to the national team, but This is a very likable man who plays really well, and we wish him all the best. May he continue to do well. Cyriel Dessers as well scored 2 goals in his last 2 games for his new club, Panathinaikos. He scored the winner for them on Wednesday, and over the weekend he scored his 2nd goal for them. Sorry, it was a 1-1 draw. But I saw the finish, and it was a really good finish. You could tell that he's really enjoying himself at his new club. So continue the good work, Cyriel Dessers. And finally, we saw Kelechi Iheanacho score a late winning penalty for Celtic against Kilmarnock last weekend. So not this weekend that just passed. But then over this weekend, he followed it up with a pretty good assist for Celtic in the League Cup. They won 3-0 in that game. So it seems like he's found a club where he will get good game time. He's playing under Brendan Rodgers, which was the manager in the most successful part of Kelechi Iheanacho's club career. And we'll also be playing the Europa League for such a passionate fan base and a big club, Celtic. Make no mistake about it. I'm even trying to get myself a Iheanacho Celtic jersey, depending on how well he performs. But good to see Kelechi back on the career revival trail, and long may it continue. So that's it in terms of the standout performers. And then just to go through the normal player reviews, Nottingham Forest, in case you have not heard, Aina is injured and out for 3 months after having surgery. He got injured in that South Africa qualifier after 5 minutes, remember? Which is why it does not help when they keep putting our players on these useless pitches. You know, I heard a rumor that even had a bit of a argument with Kusal, but I don't know how true that is. Please do not quote me on that one. But I don't blame him if he did that, because he should be rightfully angry. So this now puts his AFCON hopes in jeopardy. You know, it's not good for Nigeria at all. And honestly, I don't feel as comfortable with Osai Samuel at the back or Tyrone Ebuehi. You know, I think Aina is by far our best right back. You know, unless we can get Michael Carrier to come and play for us, you know, I still think Aina is one of those players that is head and shoulders above everybody else in the position he plays. Although, watch out for Samuel Isife, who has just been signed by Slavia Prague as a right back and will be playing in the Champions League. I'm not sure if he's getting as many minutes yet, but I'll have a look. That one is still on the way, Sha. But Aina is still by far right now the best right back that we have. So wish him a speedy recovery. Awoniyi is always on the bench anyway. So he was even in the bench for a Carabao Cup game when they lost to Swansea, and not in the squad over the weekend. So, and now that he's playing on Ange Postecoglou, I think it may be a bigger struggle for him to get any minutes. But let's see. Nottingham Forest kick off their Europa League campaign this week. So they will be playing Real Betis away tomorrow or Wednesday. And then they play Sunderland at home on Saturday. So let's see if Awoniyi gets any minutes. I already spoke about Alex Iwobi's fantastic performance for Fulham as they beat Brentford 3-1 on Saturday. But Bassey was also very good in this game and played 90 minutes. Samuel Chukwueze was on a new sub, which is quite interesting, you know. If he's not getting minutes already, let's be monitoring. Let's not talk too much for now. Let's see if Chukwueze starts tonight as Fulham play Cambridge United at home in the Carabao Cup. And then they play Aston Villa away on Sunday. So let's see what that looks like in terms of minutes for these are players. Moving swiftly on to Frank Onyeka, he actually played 90 minutes in the Carabao Cup last week Tuesday as Brentford drew 1-1 against Aston Villa but won 4-2 on penalties. But he was an unused sub for Brentford in that 3-1 loss to Alex Iwobi's Fulham on Saturday. So let's see if he gets some minutes when they play Manchester United at home on Saturday in the early kickoff in the Premier League. As for Uche, he made his debut last weekend against Sunderland for Crystal Palace off the bench. And then this week that just passed, he also played 45 minutes for Crystal Palace in the Carabao Cup as they beat Millwall, their South London rivals, 4-2 on penalties after a 1-1 draw. He was also an unused sub on the bench as Crystal Palace beat West Ham 2-1 on Saturday. Great finish by Tyrick Mitchell to win the game. So this one is an interesting one. We'll just call it early adaptation period. But obviously we hope that he's playing more games and getting more minutes sooner rather than later. And next game for them, they welcome the champions of England, Liverpool, to Selhurst Park. So that'll be a great game for Uche to play some minutes and show what he can do. So we'll be waiting for him and hopefully he'll get on the pitch. As for Arokodare, he made his debut against Newcastle last week. And the irony is he almost got an assist with his first involvement. They played a header straight to him. He nodded it to this player and the guy just shot wide. Obviously, they ended up losing the game 1-0, which was annoying. And then this weekend, again, he played 90 minutes for Wolves, but they lost 3-1 to Leeds United at home, which is very concerning. They even took the lead and managed to concede 3 goals in the first half from Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Anton Stack, and Noah Kaffel, who are all new signings for Leeds United and all scored their first goals for Leeds against Wolves. So let's just say it's very concerning. You know, yes, they've renewed the contract for their manager, but the fact that they've lost 5 straight games, I think this is their worst start in a long time anyway. So they need to figure it out very quickly. They need Strand Larsen to be fit as soon as possible. But anyway, they've got a reprieve later tonight as they get to play in the Carabao Cup against Everton at home at Molineux. So let's see how they get along in that game. And then the next game will be against Tottenham away on Saturday, 8 p.m. I'm kind of liking this 8 p.m. Premier League primetime slots time. I don't know about you guys, but it's nice to have an extra Premier League game to watch on Saturdays. You know, it was quite good after the Man U Chelsea game on Saturday to watch Fulham Brentford. So Premier League, keep up. Long may it continue. Other results that did not involve Nigerian players. So Liverpool beat Everton 2-1 in the Merseyside derby, of course. Brighton drew 2-2 against Tottenham. That was an interesting game as well. I spoke about with Wolves and Leeds. Man United beat Chelsea 2-1, even though it looked like both teams were doing their best not to win the match. You know, very interesting game, it must be said. Sunderland drew 1-1 against Aston Villa on Sunday. Bournemouth and Newcastle played a 0-0 draw, which is kind of interesting because Newcastle are very good defensively, but they can't seem to buy a goal to save their lives. And then, of course, in the big clash over the weekend, Arsenal and Man City played out a 1-1 draw. Erling Haaland with a fantastic finish. Arteta played with the handbrake on again. You know, very frustrating. Just play very easy and attackers, man. Stop being so cautious and defensive, man. Please, Arteta. Everybody thought we would just get a routine 2-0 win. And we had to rely on a Martinelli last-minute wonder goal to equalize against Man City in our own home. Arteta, please stop being defensive. Please, enough is enough. They will now ask you things you say we played better than when we won 5-1. Stop this rubbish now. Or when you feel like, we know you are the manager and you know more than us, but stop, pride comes before a fall. Do what we can see with our eyes. Play very easy. Play striker. Create chances. It's not hard. I've seen you coach a team score 91 goals and 88 goals in 2 seasons before last season. So attacking football did there somewhere. Figure it out, my coach, please. You know. But anyway, moving on. So the next fixtures in the Premier League for this weekend, so where Brentford host Man United in the 12:30 p.m. kickoff. And then we've got about 4 3 p.m. kickoffs, including a lot of big boys. So this is one of those weird Premier League weekends. Leeds play Bournemouth at Ellen Road at 3 p.m. Chelsea hosts Brighton at Stamford Bridge at 3 p.m. That'll be an interesting game for João Pedro. Manchester City host Burnley at the Etihad Stadium at 3 p.m. as well. And Crystal Palace host Liverpool at 3 p.m. as well. Which now means that the 5:30 kickoff game on Saturday is between Nottingham Forest versus Sunderland. It's not a bad game, but we want to watch our players. I know they have to share it for everybody, so we move. And then the night fixture on Saturday will be Tottenham versus Wolves, which should be quite a tasty game. Since for someone like me, I get to watch the Nigerian striker on one hand, but also Tottenham are not a bad side, so they're one of the top 6 teams, so that'd be a good game to watch. And then on Sunday, 2 p.m., we've got Aston Villa versus Fulham. Aston Villa still with no wins. They've only scored 1 goal in their first 5 games, so this should be a tricky tie for Unai Emery, especially with Fulham coming in with good form. Fulham will probably fancy their chances at Villa Park, but that should be a tasty one. And then at 4:30 on Sunday, probably the tie of the weekend, we see Arsenal, my club, go to St. James's Park. This is a ground where we haven't won in the last 2 years. We've lost 1-0 both times. Remember that ghost goal the other time? So honestly, I don't want to hear any story. Just go there and pump them 2-0. Like, I don't want to hear no stories at Teta. No excuses. Yeah, I know Madueke got injured today, confirmed out for 2 months. That's not my problem. You went to go and hire a whole squad. So get it done. Thank you. And then there's going to be Monday Night Football this weekend coming. 8 p.m. We see Everton host West Ham at their new stadium. So that should be quite a tasty game. Everton look like they're bringing the feeling back. You know, they're restoring the vibes. You know, that Iliman Ndiaye, Jack Grealish, Jusby Hall, 3 behind a Beto or a Tierney Barry. You can feed people low. And then James Garner and Idrissa Gueye. They also have a pretty good defense, especially with Tarkowski in there. You know, and they've been playing some really good attacking football, especially at home, So let's see what they can do against the terrible, terrible West Ham side. And it must be said that if West Ham lose that game, it will probably be the end of Graham Potter. So one to monitor. So the table, Liverpool remain top, 5 wins from 5. Excellent record so far, despite some interesting performances. But that's the strength and sign of champions. You have to say that they're still the overwhelming favourites for now. Then you have Arsenal, Tottenham and Bournemouth all on 10 points with 3 wins and 1 draw after 5 games. So Liverpool already have a 5-point lead over Arsenal. And this is how it started last year. We said, there's time. There's no time. You have to start calling it back. Let's see if Crystal Palace can do anything. But the scariest part is Isaac and Wirtz have not even settled. And Liverpool are not even playing relatively well yet. So there's another gear for them to reach. And that could be really, really scary for the Premier League. But watch this space and long. Let's see how it continues. Yeah, so that's it in terms of the Premier League for this week. Moving on to Serie A, Lookman is finally back in the good books of Atalanta. He came on over the weekend after he was reinstated into the squad for the final 3 minutes of Atalanta's 3-0 win over Torino on Sunday. So slowly but surely, yes, they won the game 3-0 and there was a striker, I can't remember his name, but it's silent Serbian. Very, very good player. And when Kamadi Suleimana, who struggled to play at Southampton, is playing games for Atalanta. My whole point is that Lookman is clearly Atalanta's best player. So the sooner they get him integrated, the better. Guess what? Their next game is Juventus away this Saturday at 5 p.m. So it'll be interesting to see if Ivan Juric decides to start Ademola Lookman in this game or brings him off the bench. At the very least, he'll get some more minutes in this game, so watch this space. I already spoke about Gift Urban's exploits for Verona in the league. Next up for Verona, they play Venezia at home in the Coppa Italia tomorrow, and then they play Roma away at the Olimpico on Sunday, 2 p.m. So that's another opportunity for Gift Urban to show his workings against the big club. And he seems to be one of those players that thrives in the big games. So long may this continue. As of his side, Dele-Bashiru, a bit of unfortunate news for the Lazio winger. He played 14 minutes in the Rome derby over the weekend as Lazio lost 1-0 to Roma. But he had to be taken off after 14 minutes due to an injury to his calf. He apparently already faced a late assessment test before the game to see if he could play. So it's a bit sad that unfortunately he had to come off, and it's very, very unlikely that he will be able to play against Genoa away on Monday. But we wish him a speedy recovery, and we'll be monitoring this space to see when next he can play. Ebenezer Akisomiro, one thing I like about this boy is he's now playing games in Serie A. And when I say playing games, I mean starting games. Ebenezer Akisomiro was in action for Pizza both last night and the weekend before as a starter. The good news is he started both games and played 90 minutes. The bad news is that Pisa actually lost both of those games, but it's understandable. They're a newly promoted team. They lost 1-0 to Udinese last week Sunday, but Akisomiro started the game and played 90 minutes and was pretty decent. And then last night, Monday night, Pisa played the Italian champions Napoli and lost 3-2. So not the end of the world, but more importantly for me, Akisomiro as a 21-year-old is starting games in Serie A. And he's a central midfielder, which is a position that we need more talent and more depth. So, when I spoke about what we need to do and looking into the future, these are the kind of players that should be ushered into the national team because you're trying to build for now as well as the future. And if a boy can be starting games in Serie A, then that tells me all I need to know about him. We'll continue to watch more to see how he actually plays and performs. But next up for them, they play Torino away on Thursday in the Coppa Italia. And then they play Fiorentina at home on Sunday. So we'll see how he gets on in that game. Moving on to La Liga, we saw Akko Adams play 15 minutes while Chidera Juke was on the bench for Sevilla in their 2-1 win over Deportivo Alaves on Saturday. Next up for them, they play Villarreal at home tonight. So that's tonight at 8:30. So look out for that game. Let's see if Akko Adams starts the game. Although Isaac Romero played okay as the other striker in the game over the weekend. But Ejike did not get any minutes. So let's see if he can get some minutes in this game. And then on the weekend, they play Rayo Vallecano away on Sunday. As for Omar Sadiq, he was not in the squad for us. He did in a 3-1 loss to Real Betis. I'm not sure what's happening there with Omar Sadiq's career this season. If he's even going to be integrated into the squad or play games. But next up for us, Sociedad, they play Real Mallorca Mallorca at home tomorrow night, Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. And then they play Barcelona away on Sunday, which will probably be in that Johan Cruyff 6,000-seater stadium for now until Camp Nou is ready. In the Bundesliga, Nathan Teller is injured. He was not in the squad for Leverkusen over the last week as he's out with a new injury. We're not sure about the recovery details, so it's unlikely that he'll be in action when they play St. Pauli away on Saturday. But wish him a speedy recovery and let's see how he gets on. As for Werder Bremen, very humbled, back to reality. Felix Agu played 90 minutes while Victor Boniface also came on as a sub to play 30 minutes and got a yellow card as they lost 3-0 at home to Freiburg. This is why I say mid-table teams are always going to be mid-table teams, man. You know, they had the high of thrashing a team, I think it was 4-1 the week before, only to now come home and lose 3-0 to a Freiburg team, you know. Next up for them does not get any easier. They're going to the Allianz Arena to play Bayern Munich on Friday night, this Friday, 7:30 p.m. So Boniface, it's so well and good when you put these your funny stories about it's good for a man to have 1 woman, 2, 3, 4 is okay if you are going through a lot. Yes, Drake is liking your comment or whatever you're saying, no problem. But brother, face your work, score a goal, you're a footballer. You know, yes, you got an assist the first time, but he strikes me as someone that's a bit too sensitive about comments on social media, but we know he's chronically online. So anyway, I hope he gets to play well against Bayern Munich, and we wish him all the best in that game. Kevin Akpogba, on the other hand, came on for the final 7 minutes as Hoffenheim got thrashed 4-1 by Bayern Munich. And next up for them, they play Freiburg away on Sunday. As for Jordan Torunariga, is currently out with the groin injury for Hamburg, although they were able to win their first game this weekend in the Bundesliga. In League One, I already spoke about Terem Moffi's team losing 4-1 to Brest, but he scored his second goal of the season. Next up for Nice, they play Roma at home tomorrow night in the Europa League, so watch this space. And then they play Moses Simon's Paris FC at home on Sunday. As for Moses Simon and Paris FC, they lost at home yet again, this time to Strasbourg, 3-2 on Sunday. So yeah, it looks like it's going to be an interesting season for them. So let's see how Moses Simon gets on when his team goes away to play against Terem Moffi's Nice. As for Chile's Awazia, we continue to start games for Nantes in League One, which is good to see. They drew 2-2 against Rennes in what is their local derby in that region of France. Next up for them, they play Toulouse away on Saturday. I spoke about Ilenikhena scoring all these goals for Monaco. They're currently second in the league, although Marseille did win yesterday against PSG, which was interesting because there's a part of me that was thinking that they would give the Billy permission to travel while there's a game going on. But the good news is Ilenikhena Monaco are actually top of the league after 5 games, after PSG's loss yesterday. So that's interesting, and just by virtue of goals scored. So let's see if Monaco can keep up the impressive start to the season when they play Lorient away on Saturday, 4 p.m. For Hamza Ojediro, he was not in the squad for long, so we'll keep monitoring that space and see if he plays when they play Rennes away on Sunday in the late night kickoff. In the Portuguese league, Jadon Santos continues to play minutes for Porto. He played 45 minutes in a 3-0 win over Rio Ave on Friday. Next up for him, they play Salzburg away on Thursday in the Europa League, 8 p.m. Then they play Aruka away on Monday. I think this is a prime player that is ready to be called back in for the Super Eagles. If I was Eric Schell personally, I think he's better than both Bruno Yemachi and Felix Agu. So let's watch this space for Zaidu. In Belgium, I already spoke about Raphael Onyedika scoring his first Champions League goal of the season in a 4-1 win over Monaco on Thursday. He then played 90 minutes and got a yellow card in a 2-0 win over St. Truden in the Belgian League on Sunday. Next up for Onyedika and Club Brugge, they play Westerlo at home tomorrow, Wednesday night, and then they go away to Standard Liège away on Saturday in a 5:15 p.m. kickoff. Girasor was not in the squad for Genk in a 2-1 loss to Union Saint-Gilloise on Sunday, but let's see if he's able to make the squad when they play Rangers away in the Europa League this Thursday before they then play St. Truden on Sunday. Benjamin Frederick, on the other hand, did not start for FCB Denda. He played 33 minutes, but they lost yet again 3-0 to Ghent. So it's going to be a very character building season for Benjamin Frederick, at least in terms of his club football. He may be starting for the Super Eagles, but those losses in the Belgian League, it must be quite an adaptation period. But we believe in you. We've seen you do enough for the national team to believe. Next up for them, they play Ral La Louvière at home on Sunday. So let's see if Danda can finally get back to winning ways. In Turkey, last weekend, Osimhen was not in the squad for Galatasaray, both in the league and also in the Champions League, as they lost 5-1 to Frankfurt in the Champions League. However, yesterday he's still not fit because I know that Galatasaray beat Konyaspor. I think it was 3-0, if I am not mistaken. 3-1, and Osimhen was not in the squad. The good news is that there's been pictures of him back to training. So let's see if he's able to get up to speed ahead of their game against Alanyaspor away on Friday. Or if not, the next one that they have to play probably in the Champions League. But we'll watch this space. Ndidi is currently out with the thigh injury, so he has not been playing against for Besiktas. On the other hand, Anthony Dennis continues to play well for Giuseppe. They beat Besiktas 3-0 on Friday, and he played 90 minutes. This is another player that has to be in the next Super Eagles squad. If I'm the national team manager, yes, you have Iwobi. Call Iwobi as one of the left wingers. Let him and look. Call Iwobi, Lookman, Simon and Chukwueze, and let's just call those ones as our wingers. Then you have Onyedika. Probably you still pick Ndidi. Maybe you still pick Onyeka. But I want to see either an Anthony Dennis or an Akinsomiro in the squad. That's how you move forward and move. In fact, after this next AFCON, you might ever have to phase out Onyeka self, to be honest. Or even Ndidi, based on their ages, you know. Or even the way they perform. Because Onyeka plays wellish enough, but he doesn't do anything amazingly well. He's a good destroyer, but progressive passing is not the best, you know. So Anthony Dennis, 21 years old, 22 years old. See the way he's playing and playing well for Giuseppe. You know, there's definitely a lot of potential for this guy to achieve and room to grow. So keep up the great work, Anthony Dennis. We're watching you very, very well. As for Onuachu, we already spoke about his goal against Gaziantep after an assist from Onana. Long may continue, and they play Fatih Karagümrük away on Saturday. While Ibrahim Olawoyin for Rizespor played 89 minutes and scored a goal in their 1-1 draw against Kocaelispor on Sunday. In the Czech Republic League, Slavia Prague's Igor Ugbo is currently injured, which is why he did not make his Champions League debut last week. But David Moses, another midfielder to monitor, was on the bench for Slavia Prague in their 2-2 draw against Bodo Glimt in the Champions League last week. Slavia Prague, as I also mentioned, recently signed a player called Samuel Isife. He plays as a right back, and they just signed him from fellow Czech team Dikla Praha. So watch this space, and we'll track to see if Samuel Isife gets some reasonable minutes, because all of a sudden, if you have a Champions League playing right back, that adds to your options and your pool. And who knows, you may even be able to bounce Osai Samuel soon, you know. So let's see. Raphael Durosimi will be in action in the Europa League for Victoria Pilsen when they play Ferencváros on Thursday. I know he played a 1-1 draw against Sparta Prague over the weekend. Him and Ilenikhena both played the game, so that's good to see. These are young players that we should be tracking and monitoring based on where the future is taking us to. And then just to round up the podcast with the final two, in the Greek League, we saw Bruno Yemachi on the bench in the Champions League as Olympiacos drew 0-0 against Paphos FC of Cyprus. He was also on a new sub in Olympiacos' 1-1 draw against Panathinaikos at the weekend. So he's not playing games. So this is why I told you guys about Zedu. You see, Onyemachi is a bit up, down, up, down, up, down. And Felix Agu, let's be honest, a bit of a opportunity merchant. He played for Werder Bremen. So the Science plays for a better club and has more experience both for the Super Eagles than either of these players, and has even played well for us. Even in that our AFCON final, Zedu Science played most of the games at left back for us, and he has not played any qualifiers, and we see how we've been performing. So let's continue to watch this space. Anyway, there's a Greek Cup game on Wednesday tomorrow for Olympiacos against Asteras Tripolis. So hopefully we can see Onyemachi get some minutes in this game before they then play on Saturday against Levediakos. As for Cyriel Dessers, I already mentioned the fact that he scored in his last two games, including this weekend against Olympiacos. So that would have done his confidence a world of good. Also, Panathinaikos are in action in the Europa Conference League. So they play Young Boys away on Thursday. So watch this space. And I, of course, spoke about Kelechi Iheanacho getting an assist over the weekend as Celtic beat Patrick Thalau 4-0 on Sunday in the League Cup. Patrick Thistle, I didn't say Carlisle. And then he'll be in action in the Europa League tomorrow as well, 8 p.m. as Celtic play Red Star Belgrade, who of course have Peter Olayinka and another Nigerian player there. So watch this space. Starboy of the week. This week is an interesting one. The bronze medal goes to Gift Orban for opening his account in Serie A. It looks like he's settling in nicely for his new club, Verona. He started the game against big Juventus. Yes, he scored a penalty, but his all-around gameplay was fantastic. He had at least 2 or 3 other chances where he could have scored, where the ball just went slightly past the post. Also, he was awarded as the man of the match in this game, and it looks like he's finally found a place where he will be trusted and can thrive. So, Gift Orban, I want to reward you for your good performance, and hopefully long may it continue, because he's had such a stop-start career over the past 2 years. Silver medal this week goes to Raphael Onyedika for scoring in the Champions League against Monaco last week and continuing to shine for Club Brugge. I think he's one of the beacon of hopes of the Super Eagles squad that gives me hope right now as he's playing. This is a player that, in my opinion, can play for any of the top clubs in the world, and he's just continued progressing, and his time will come. So, Raphael Onyedika, shout out to you. But the gold medal this week and the Starboy of the week has to go to the one and only Alex Iwobi, Nigeria's most capped player in the current Super Eagles team. Continues to flourish and go from strength to strength for Fulham under Marco Silva. Yet again, over the weekend in the West London derby against Brentford, Fulham ran away 3-1 winners, and this was a classic game of Alex Iwobi putting his team on his back. They considered a very unlucky goal. He put his hand around Josh King, the young boy, telling him, don't worry, keep your head up, let's keep going. And then what does Alex Iwobi do? He scores the equalizer with a fantastic finish, snapshot into the corner after Kelechi, and then with one of the best assists you see this season. He slipped in a sumptuous ball to Harry Wilson, literally cutting over 4 Brentford players out of the game, and Harry Wilson just had to apply a left foot sumptuous finish into the bottom corner to make it 2-1. So yeah, another good display and a fantastic start to the season for Alex Iwobi for Fulham. So you, Alex Iwobi, you are my Starboy of the week, and keep up the excellent performances. Now, to round up the podcast are the ones to watch as usual, and starting from tomorrow, we've got a few Nigerian players in action in the Europa League. So of course, let's see if Awoniyi can play for Nottingham Forest when they play Real Betis away tomorrow. And then we'll see Peter Olayinka's Red Star Belgrade play Kelechi Iheanacho Celtic at 8 p.m. tomorrow as well. On Thursday, Zedu Sanusi's Porto kick off the Europa League campaign away against RC Salzburg, 8 p.m. too. And then we'll see Fernandez from Rangers play Irasor's Genk at Ibrox, 8 p.m. too. And then Panathinaikos' Cyriel Dessers will play Young Boys away. This is also a Europa League game. And then on Friday, we'll see Felix Agu and Victor Boniface's Werder Bremen go and face the hardest test you can face in Germany as they go to Allianz Arena to play Bayern Munich in the Friday early kickoff in the Bundesliga. And then on Saturday in the Premier League early kickoff, we see Frank Onyeka's Brentford host Manchester United. Hopefully can get some minutes after being on a new sub in the weekend's loss to Fulham. Kristaps Uche also after being on a new sub, we see him get some minutes at Selhurst Park as Crystal Palace host the defending English champions Liverpool. Also, Ademola Lookman's Atalanta go away to the Alliance Stadium to play Juventus, the Juventus Stadium. So let's see if he will get some more significant minutes after finally making his first appearance of the season for Atalanta this weekend, but just playing 3 minutes. And then finally, for Saturday, let's see how Tolu Arokodare's Wolverhampton Wanderers perform when they go to play Tottenham Hotspur at 8 p.m. On Sunday, we'll see Chidera Ejike and Akko Adams Sevilla go away to play Rayo Vallecano. And then in the Premier League, Bassey, Iwobi and Chukwueze's Fulham go away to play Aston Villa at Villa Park. So can they actually continue their good form? It remains to be seen. Terem Moffi's Nice host Paris FC's Moses Simon, so look out for that game. And then finally, Gift Orban's Verona will be in action away against Roma at the Stadio Olimpico. So watch out for that game. So that's it for this episode of the podcast. I know it's a bit of a chunky one, but I had to give you quite a lot of updates considering how long it's been since the last episode of the podcast. I want to say a big thank you to all our subscribers. Please continue to like, share, and click the notification bell so you get a notification every time we drop. I appreciate all the love and all the support. We're on the road to 5K subscribers. We should get there fairly soon by God's grace. And of course, remember, we're on a mission to get to 10K subscribers by the end of the year. I want to thank everybody for all the support we've seen, and for just, really supporting the channel on all our social media channels. Remember, we're Nigeria Football Weekly on every social media channel except Twitter, where we're at NFWPOD. So that's it for this episode of the podcast. Enjoy the football for the rest of the week, and I'll see you on episode 163 of the Nigeria Football Weekly podcast next week. Enjoy the football, take care, and ciao.
Thanks for watching this video. Please like, share, subscribe, and click the bell to get a notification whenever we drop a video. You can also find our social media channels listed below. And of course, up Super Eagles and Nigerian they ever carry last.